like.
By the
let
time
that
I went to
sink in.
rehab, I had accepted it.
Oh, I still
But
was.
at this point, though, I hadn't.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck that. I'm young. I like to party, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, man. All the kids are doing it. 3, 2, 1, we own.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Everybody Love Everybody with Katy and Jamey. Tonight we've got a good episode. We're going to be talking about Jamey's story. Well, he'll be sharing, we'll be listening. Last week we discussed my story, and it was a really good turnout. It was recovery based. I'm close to 6 years, and Jamey here is close to 4 years here. I'll let you take it up.
Yeah, so like Katy said, I'm going on 4 years sober, 4 years without a drink. And so I'm going to tell my story. And Katy and I were talking a little bit before, and I know Katy feels the same way as I do about really wanting to like bring you guys some value and bring some hope, and not just be able to bring some hope and value. And I really hope I can express myself that way. And we're going to try and keep it a little bit shorter and maybe to the point. I'll try and get some funny stories in there too, but I really want this to be actually focused on like there is a solution, and my life is fucking amazing now today. Like in my head right now, like there is absolutely no reason to drink. It's just that's so engraved down into my heart, into my soul. Like I love my life right now, and I know that if I start drinking, that shit can and will change. So I was born in Dawson Creek, northern BC. My mom and my biological dad were actually split up before they knew that my mom was pregnant with me. And by the time I was born, my mom was actually married to another guy, so my stepdad. And my mom actually taught me that my stepdad was dad, so I didn't actually know that my biological dad like was my dad. I used to go visit him, obviously, and he's told me later in life that I think probably between the ages of like 0 to 4, 0 to 5, he used to pick me up, and I'd just give him this like bewildered look, like he thought I didn't even know who the fuck he was. And it was like very kind of awkward. Like I didn't call him dad. I called him by his first name, and I called him by his first name till I was probably, I think 13 or 14, maybe a little bit younger than that.
And that must have been hard for him, too, on his side as well, right? That must have been weird.
Oh, for sure. Especially now that I'm a dad and I think about it, and like, the fuck,
weird.
that must have been really hard. And there was no FaceTime, no anything like that. Like, I don't even really remember, like, yeah, I did when I was a little bit older start talking to him on the phone. But really, in those young years, right, just those visits on the holidays or the summer or whatever. So, excuse me. I was a very emotional child, and even my mom said from when I was 0 to the time I was 2, all I did was scream. Like I did not give my mom any sleep at all. And actually, she said that when I stopped screaming and I stopped crying, she knew there was something wrong, and so she went to check on me and went to change my diaper, and I had a lump down in my groin.
That's so sad.
And I had given myself a hernia from just screaming so hard and had to get emergency surgery. And it's funny, I remember my mom telling me the story too about, so after surgery, they're like, we need to wake him up. And my mom's like, oh no, like, don't wake him up. Like, let him wake up on his own or whatever. Like, she was just scared of me freaking out. And so they're like, no, like we need to wake him up. So they woke me up, and I guess I like ripped my cords out or my like IV shit out, and was just like being
As a baby?
just being like a little spaz, like same.
It breaks my heart though. That's so sad. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just how I was as a kid, and then getting older, like I remember, like I was an emotional kid, and I didn't know how to contain my emotions, and especially like anger, and my anger would like build up in me so much, and I did not know what to do with it, and I just and like my mom like didn't know what the fuck was going on with me, and it was just I was a very sensitive and emotional kid, and I kind of had a problem with like authority, and especially men figures. in school, and later on, my mom's other boyfriends. I had an issue, and I wanted respect, even though I was a child. I did not want to be treated like a child. And I did have some good teachers who, like, basically the teachers either loved me or they hated me. And I spent a lot of my elementary years in the principal's office, in the office. I ended up moving to Vernon when I was 10 or 11 years old. So I did grade 6 was my first year in Vernon. And Madame Merler, I was in French immersion. Madame Merler was the principal, and I legit had my own little table down there in the principal's office. That's how much time I spent in the principal's office. It basically got to the point that, like, anytime I said anything, I'd just, Jamey, go to the office. I remember I had made up this game, and I thought this was the weirdest thing because I didn't have to do this in elementary school in Dawson Creek, but when I went to Bairstow in Vernon after I moved, at recess and lunch, they made the kids line up outside the door. Like, it wasn't just the bell rang and you went back into class by yourself, but no, like the bell rang and then you had to go line up each class outside the door and then you go in. And I had made up this game. There was these windowsills along the side. And I'd made up this game, last one sitting wins. I won that fucking game every time. Like, the teachers would be, get in line, right? And last one to get in line wins. Last one sitting on the windowsills. And just shit like that. One more story about that school. I had another teacher, Madame O'Brien. And I remember I'd gotten into a fight with her in PE class or gym class, and I used to ride my bike to school, so my bike was up on the stage in the gym class, and we were all sitting in a circle, and me and her started, I don't know, arguing about something, and I didn't like where it was going, so I got up, walked across the gym, grabbed my bike, and she's kind of freaking out, like, stop, what are you doing, Like, I grabbed my bike, rode my bike across the gym, like, out the door, fucking peaced out. Like, she just the teachers had no control over me, so they either loved me or hated me. And going into high school, so going into grade 8, I ended up switching back to English because I kind of always struggled with school. School is not really my strongest point. Like, I was a smart kid, but I didn't do that well. So once I went back to English, it was definitely a lot easier for me. And I got big into football. Grade 7 going into grade 8, I played on the high school team, on the city team, and definitely fell in love with football. And I'd kind of got myself a fighting reputation, like, immediately going into high school, into grade 8. I ended up beating up a grade 10, and basically the whole school knew who I was at that point. And then I'd gotten into a few more fights with older kids and beating them up, and then my reputation kind of started growing, like, to other high schools. And especially as, going into the grade 9, 10, 11, when, there was like 4 or 5 other high schools in town, when the kind of partying starts combining with the other high schools. Mm-hmm. Like, I was a known, like, okay, don't really fuck with Jamey, like, the kid's a fighter.
And you obviously liked that.
And I did.
You got a high off of
for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely, like, my mom used to just be sick about me fighting, right? And I used to tell her, I love it. Like, I love fighting. And I was never the one to, like, really go in, like, pick fights, but I was always down to fight. Like, if somebody said shit, or if like friends would come up to me, yo, Jamey, this guy fucking stole my little mini keg. Like, what? Okay, I'm sick Jamey on him, right? And my kind of drinking and partying had progressively started getting more and more. And, like, growing up, I think when I was younger, my mom had made such an impression on me, and my mom was very strict about, like, no alcohol. Kids absolutely cannot have alcohol. And, I was 13. I wasn't allowed to watch a 14A movie. And not that, I don't know if that had really anything to do with me becoming, an alcoholic or having issues with alcohol. But it was definitely that kind of, well, fuck you. You tell me I can't? Like, fuck you, I can't, right?
Yeah.
So going into grade 12, I was skipping class all the time. I really hated school. It was just I was probably going to 50% of my classes. Like if I had 4 classes in a day, 2 maximum I was going to. Just yeah, I did not like school. And again, still I had teachers who had my back, and I had teachers that hated me, and that's just the way it was. But my grade 12 year, I first game of my grade 12 year of football, I dislocated my shoulder, like super, super bad. My shoulder came down into my chest, and it put me out for the season. Like I couldn't play football anymore, and that was basically the only thing keeping me in high school at this point. And I hit a pretty big low after that. And I remember going to a party. It was on the weekend, and the team had a game that day or the day before, and they were short on jerseys, and my head coach had given my jersey away, and it fucking broke my heart so bad. I was so sad. Like I could not believe that, I got hurt, and then.
So it was like a pivotal moment in your life where you kind of was just like, you saw your life just change within a moment, and then you
big time. Like I thought I was playing football. Yeah, like that was my dream. That's what I was.
Because didn't you have scholarships, or you were planning on it?
Yeah, if I wanted to play college football. I was going to play college football.
Identity,
yeah,
sure.
And like I said, that was the only thing even keeping me in school to that point. So after getting some drinks in me and starting to really feel more sorry for myself, and I looked up Mr. I don't know if I should say his name. Yeah, sure, it's fine. Mr. Reed's name in the phone book. He was the head coach, and he was a super good dude, man. He was like super good to me, that guy. And I looked his name up. It's like 11:30 p.m. or maybe midnight. And I'm like drunk, and I call him up, and I think his wife answered, and I'm like, "Yeah, is Mr. Reed there?" So they were obviously in bed.
Yeah.
And he answers, he's like, "Yeah, who's this?" I'm like, "Mr. Reed," like crying at this point. Like it's Jamey. He's like, "What's going on, Jamey?" And I'm just like, I can't believe you gave my jersey like away to somebody else. Like I can't believe, and like I don't think he told me later on, like, holy man, I did not like expect like a phone call like that. Like he like realized in that moment like how like important it was to me, and just like I don't even know where I'm going with that. That was just like no,
that's a huge transitional. Like that was a thing in your life that like left a mark.
Yeah, big time.
That kind of changed directions for you. Like if that wasn't going to keep you going, like that just completely, like you had nothing, you had lost everything in your opinion, right? So
my drinking and partying had definitely stepped up after that. Like I said, I dropped out of school. I had always worked from a young age. Like I got my first job when I was 13. Save on food, so like I always had to pay for my own movies. I grew up with single mom, right? So I always had to pay for my activities, and in a way I'm grateful for that, because it's like
me too.
Yeah, it's taught me how to be responsible and be accountable, and like having to work for things that I want, right? So yeah, I ended up going up north after that. My dad had got me a job in a pulp mill. And it was a decent job, a hard labor job. I was making pretty good money for having dropped out of high school, like right away get a pretty decent paying job. And always when I worked, I could manage my kind of drinking and partying and stuff, because I'd be, focused at work, and that I always took lots of pride in working hard and doing good at my job. But it was on the days off or on the layoffs that I would get into this pattern of getting into a low and getting into just drinking every day, partying every day, spending all my money. Because I had always made good money. Like, I think I was making like $24 an hour or something at the pulp mill, and that was in 2007 or 2008. And so that was still like pretty good money back then, especially for a 17 or 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And then when I'd get laid off of my good jobs, I'd end up moving back to Vernon, and I'd fall back on cooking. And cooking, I always had a blast. I worked with lots of good guys, worked at this beach pub, the only beach pub in Vernon, and we ended up getting 50% off booze there. And we'd be cooking, drinking while we're cooking, and then just stay and shut the place down till 3 a.m. and drink every night. And I wasn't making very much money. At this point, my mom had kicked me out when I was a young age as well. I had done a lot of couch surfing. So like I had been couch surfing basically since I was 16, staying at my mom's house sometimes if I was like on her good terms. But really I'd gotten to a point where basically if I was drinking or had been drinking, she did not want to talk to me. I was not allowed at the house. I definitely put my mom through a lot of shit. And, you know, I can take responsibility now as I'm older and looking back on everything. And yeah, my mom had a part to play in some of the shit that happened as well. But I definitely made it really, really hard for my mom. And, you know, if she wouldn't have done the things that she did, I wouldn't be who I am today. So like, thanks, Mom. Overall, it all worked out. Thank God. But yeah, so I ended up getting another job back up north in the oil field. Again, my dad had given me some contacts, and I went back up there, making good money again, living in the camp house, 30 days on, 4 days off. So really it was like, you know, and I'm working 12-hour plus shifts, not really time for much else, maybe have a few beers and shit after work, but it was basically just work, eat, sleep. But then on those 4 days off, I'd managed to spend a whole fucking $5,000-$6,000 paycheck out at the bar because I'm like, you know, cool guy, fucking buying everybody drinks and you know, like, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah. But I was fun till I wasn't fun, right? Like I was the guy people wanted to hang out with until I wasn't that guy anymore. Like it was like a fine line after I'd have that, and I could never know what drink it would be. That like blackout drink, because some nights like I could just drink nonstop and be all good, be super fun. Other nights, you know, I could have like 4 or 5 drinks and then fucking black out and start wanting to fight everybody in the building. Like it was just, I didn't have control over that aspect. And the other thing with like my drinking, because there is a lot of misconception on like what an alcoholic is and stuff like that. And for me, I struggled with the fact that like I can and I could have like a beer or 2 beers or 3 beers and stop. Like if I wanted to do that, I could will myself to do that. Where I was like, oh, alcohol, I'd try to convince myself like, oh, an alcoholic can't do that. An alcoholic like can't stop drinking. But really where my issue was that line of blacking out. And I didn't know where that line would be. Like I said, one night it could be 4 drinks and the next night it could be 10 drinks. And that's an issue right there. If you can't figure that out, if you start doing stupid shit because you had 3 or 4 drinks and like next thing you know you're blacked out and like,
well, it's not normal.
It's not normal.
No.
And my mom had, you know, been telling me for you know quite some time, probably since I was like 17, 18, like you got a problem. You got a problem with fighting and with drinking. Drugs, I'd never like I have dabbled in some drugs for sure, like but never really in high school. I didn't start.
But like even too though, like did you like going through? Did you know you were an alcoholic, or you're just like,
oh hell no.
See, I remember that too, and like even being in rehab and like walking in the hallway and like pinching myself and being like and convincing myself like I don't belong here actually. Like I'm not a drug addict. Like I'm not as fucked up as this person. Like I found that like hard for me to really like.
By the time I went to rehab, I had accepted it.
Oh, I still was.
at this point though, I hadn't. I was like, fuck that. I'm young. I like to party. Whatever. Everybody's doing it, man. All the kids are doing it. And, but as this continued on, like I just went through the same pattern over and over again. Have a good job. Good paying, high paying job, get laid off, go party my fucking face off, spend all my money, fucking become a loser basically, until I hit a bottom. And then it was boom, get another good job, high paying job, same shit, get laid off, fucking like it was just like a vicious cycle, man. It didn't end. And in those lows, I always had very good homies who like still to this day like really, really good homies. And I did a lot of couch surfing. Yeah, definitely did a lot of couch surfing. And we had this one house that was basically the party house from like 19 to 22, basically. And there's like 4 dudes who lived in there, and I slept on the couch like every single night. And it was the party house for lots of people. Like we had bangers there all the time. Like it was fun. And it was getting to the point where like my close friends, not so much, but like lots of the kind of less closer friends that were still in that group kind of were like, not really wanting to hang around me as much, and like I was like starting to piss people off and just be that guy.
You're not fun anymore.
Yeah, no, I wasn't fun guy. I was a guy that fuck, Jamey's drinking, like something shitty could happen, or it's just that unsureness, right? Of, oh, Jamey's drinking. And that kind of started picking up.
So how old are you at this point?
I'm like 21, 22. And I moved into a basement suite with another friend. And, oh yeah, we were talking about the drugs. Like I'd done a little bit of coke and done, some E and some mushrooms and shit like that. But that was like kind of periodically and depending on who I was hanging out with or who I was partying with. But I was never like, oh, I want the drugs. Like, I was a booze man for sure. Like, I wanted to drink. I wanted beer and any booze really. I wanted to drink. That was my jam. But like I said, if there was drugs and people were there, and I was game, sure. Like I remember one time, sorry mom, but we were out and I was like drunk, high on coke, high on mushrooms, high on E, and I had these like mushrooms. I was sitting at this table. I was like fucked up, right? And I was sitting at this table looking at these mushrooms and I like started crushing up the mushrooms.
Just snort them?
Yeah, and I like did a rail of mushrooms, like just because I'm like, oh, I don't know, snort these mushrooms. Like, I don't know, just fucked up shit like that. Like that wasn't that often, but so yeah, I was living in a basement suite with this friend of mine, and I was like, had a mattress on the floor. The sink didn't fucking work in the house. It stunk. We didn't have TV. Like, we were like, didn't even have food. Like, I remember his mom like bought us a Costco case of Kraft dinner so we could have in the house. And it was like just spending all the money on booze and partying and just living like shit. And my mom had been kind of putting the bug in my ear for a while. Like, you need help. Like, you need to get some help, Jamey. Like, and it had been like years she'd been telling me that shit, right? And I vividly remember like that was it when I like looked at the bedroom I was staying in, and it was on a low. I think I had actually just gotten out of the drunk tank, and I'm just like, fuck me, I'm over this shit. Like, just that feeling of like, I gotta change something. It finally like clicked in me that I'm like, I gotta change something because this ain't fucking working out, man. And I always knew my potential. Like, I always had this feeling of like, I'm gonna do good in life. Like I always knew that I was, and it was just like in that moment, like I knew like, fuck man, you gotta stop doing this shit because like it ain't working out, man. And it was like just a moment of clarity, right? And we were kind of talking a little bit before and how like I've been to the drunk tank probably like 15 to 20 times in my life, which is like quite a few times, and twice in one day. Like, that's fucked up. I talked to other people like at work and stuff and like joking around. Like, think like, I've never been to the drunk tank. I'm like, you never been in the drunk tank? Like, to me, that's fucked up when I hear somebody's like,
we're the minority.
I know.
Like, we talk about our lives as if it's like, and we crack jokes about it. Like, really, like, this is very serious. Like, this is a serious disease, and people are dying from it, and it's powerful, and it's not something to be played around with. But when you go through it, and it's like literally just another day to us, like that shit's funny, and I think it's like it's so sad that we have to make it funny because like our life would be so depressing, and it's just we have to laugh at ourselves.
I know, but
we have to.
I still like it's still like
it's sad,
it still seems odd to me that somebody hasn't been to the drunk tank. I'm like,
well, I remember being like out in my addiction and people being like, oh, I don't drink, or I've never, like, they just didn't like it, and I was like, wow. Like, I feel sorry for you. Like, I was just like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, I thought they were so boring.
Perspective, man. Hey, it's just so funny.
Yeah, really, I'm just, like, thinking, like, they were probably like, oh, my God, that poor girl. Yeah. Like, to me, right?
So, yeah. So, looking at my bedroom in that basement suite, having no money, having whatever, just living like shit. And then the next day, I talked to my mom, and I was like, okay, like, I'm down to get some help. And she was like stoked, and she like jumped on it right away. She knew this. She worked for this counselor guy, and he had connections at a place down on Vancouver Island, and so they like got me in a vehicle, right, and sent me over to Vancouver Island like right away, because they're like basically in those situations, like when an alcoholic or addict or something like that like says, okay, I want some help, it's like boom, you do it now, because then they're willing, because like. Once they start feeling good again, or once I start feeling good again, then it's like, oh, no. Or scared. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I came down and I did rehab down here on Vancouver Island, and yeah, that was in 2012. And that was 5 months of rehab, so which was like, this is pretty intense rehab, right? It was two months of like inpatient, so like you're on lockdown, right? Like you could leave if you want to, but if you leave, that's it. You're not coming back in.
Yeah.
And then 3 months of, it's called like extended, so you live in like a sober house and like talk to counselors, and before this, I had never like talked to a counselor. Like I thought it was like garbage talking to a counselor. Like I'm like, who the fuck talks to counselors? Like I just had, I look back at it now and like, what low perspective or awareness or open-mindedness I had. But I was young and whatever, like it's just the way it was at that time. But so going into rehab and actually like getting a counselor and like starting to like talk about my feelings and talk about shit that I've done and like learn how to communicate. That was like the number one thing that I think I got from that place that's like done wonders in my life, is like learn how to communicate and set boundaries and really just take a fucking hard look at myself. Because you're for myself anyways, I wasn't going to grow anything or grow and become a better person if I didn't have a hard look at myself, take responsibility, look at the shitty things that I had done, look at my actions, like all that shit had to change.
So did you have a relapse?
Yes, I stayed sober for about 1.5 years. So yeah, I was in the treatment for about 5 months. Stayed sober for 1.5 years. Got another good job. Was doing really well. Right. Ended up meeting a woman, and we ended up having a child like right away together. It's just the way it worked out, and shit went on, and next thing you know, I kind of had started drinking again. And this is kind of where what I was talking about before, where like I could have a few drinks and nothing bad happened. And I'm like, oh shit, like I was just young. I'm not really an alcoholic. Like it's all good, right? And so that carried on for a little while, and then all of a sudden something would happen when I was drunk. I'd be like, fuck, like I get those sick feelings in my stomach again, and like, oh, like just that gross familiar feeling.
Yeah.
And then so I'd stop drinking for a little bit, and then I'd have a couple beers, whatever, start drinking. It was fine again. And this pattern started happening where I'd go like a month, all good, and then boom, I'd be away out of town because I worked out of town and out with the boys and get blacked out drunk, and then I'm puking all next day, or like just like doing shit that I knew was starting.
You knew better, man.
Yeah, I knew better, and it was starting to lead me down the path. And then at this point, like things in my relationship were like not that good, and there was lots of pressure, and like the drinking was like a coping mechanism as well. So like I started drinking for wrong reasons again, man. Like and finally, after I'd end up losing another job, and I was at another fork in the road, another point in my life where I'm like, okay, I can fucking go this way, or I can go this way. And these are hard decisions to make, man, especially like lots of shit on the line. And like, I am not unique. I know that people are faced with serious, hard decisions all the time. And like, I am not saying I am unique in any way, but I'm just trying to be relatable, as in like, this was a fucking hard decision for me. And so I moved back to the island because I knew sober people there. I'd gone to meetings there. I knew how to be sober on the island. Like I knew that much. So I knew if I could go there, it would just give me a better chance. So yeah, boom, I moved back to Vancouver Island. Got sober. Started doing well. I was on EI, so I wasn't making much money. Started working for a moving company, which was the shittiest fucking job, man. Oh my God. Like, oh yeah, that was terrible. But I just stuck that out for a little while. Was working through my shit. Ended up getting funding to go to school to get my bridge watch ticket, which is I work on the water now. And yeah, things, like I said, when I'm sober and I'm determined and I have my mind set on things, it's fucking unbelievable, like what I can accomplish. And yeah, like I think about it, and like the drinking, it just takes away all motive, all drive. It's
takes
like
away the light of a human. Like it takes like completely like
like because like me now after work, I'm like working on something, or I'm working on our goals, or I'm like trying to level up, right? Like trying to like expand. We're like looking for fuller expansion, right? And yeah, I met Katy on the island, and we just kind of had this like instant connection. Like we both just kind of like.
Well, it was weird too because we both like thought we'd never met, but it was like we both recognized each other. Like it was really weird. It's one of those annoying like we just, it was like love at first sight or whatever. It wasn't like that, but it was just like I just knew.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then when you like asked me, I'm like, well, obviously you did. Like I just knew it was gonna happen. But yeah, like we were just perfect wherever we were in our lives. It was meant to happen because we are very much the same person.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the same values, same perspectives on life. And we both want to go somewhere. I mean, hence, like, look what we're doing right now together. This would not be working if we were drinking.
Yeah,
we would not
a chance.
No, I don't even know who I'd be today if I was still drinking.
Yeah,
after all these years.
And I think for me, like, it's so valuable to me, and I just like am so appreciative of having you as a partner and having like you have the same kind of communicative skills and like. Us being able to have open conversations and just like lots of times I just feel like we're on another fucking level, man. And I'm so, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just have this connection with you that's like unreal. And I'm grateful for it. Right. And so like for me today, the solution is like I said before, just knowing in my heart, like, I know that when I drink, shit doesn't go well, and I do not get in a good state of mind. Like when I'm not drinking and I'm working towards goals and I'm working towards something, like life is so amazing.
We have direction, right? We know where we're going. You know, we don't want to go, so it's like we're headed towards something. We're not just staying stagnant. I feel like if we didn't have goals and we didn't have any desires right now, like I don't know what we'd be doing, right?
And I'm just like so grateful. Just so grateful these days, and it's just such a good feeling. You know, I remember being in rehab and being like, fuck, how am I gonna not drink for the rest of my life? Like, it was such a thought that I'm like, holy man, like, I love drinking. Like, everything was fun when you drink, right? That's the thoughts that I had. Like, that's how I thought. I literally thought I had to drink all the time to have fun. Going to the beach, had to drink. Going boating, had to drink.
It's like I couldn't stand myself without the drink.
Yep.
Like, right? Like, did you feel that?
And near the end, I started to.
Or not even drink. Mine was more drugs, but like I just couldn't be in my skin any longer.
It definitely made things easier for sure.
Self-loathing and hatred. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for me today, like, well, yeah, that's what I was getting at. The first 30 days I found. Once I got past those first kind of 30 days of no drinking and like realizing, hey, I'm okay being sober, that was the kind of point for me. And I found that even with like smoking too as well, because I've been quit smoking for a little while right now. And it's like the kind of 30-day mark. And even on those challenges I've been doing, like a 30-day challenge. I know that's a weird 30-day thing. But yeah, you guys, if there's anybody out there like struggling with drinking, like it is possible to live like a sweet, stokeable life sober. Like you don't have to become a straight edge fucking like loser or whatever you have in your head. Because those are the things that I used to think too, right? Like I used to think it was weird if somebody didn't drink. Like you're fucked up if you don't drink. Like what the fuck's wrong with you, right? And so now being on the other side of that, like if there's anybody listening to this that is struggling with anything, like it is good on the other side, and you can have fun. And life is like amazing, and you just got to work at it for a little bit, and then keep working at it, and yeah, life is pretty sweet.
Life is good. Anyways, I think that's a good spot.
Yeah.
That was really good, babe. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.